Hit the button. Good morning, everybody. Got my two good friends here. We've got CTO and Ivan. How are you guys?
Good morning. Good
Fantastic.
morning.
Finally
Yes.
Monday.
Good to be back.
Good. We also have some great news. We have sound and we have picture and audio. I just need to add one more camera for the slides. I just got to figure out how to do that. So first of all, how did you guys? You were probably asleep last night when the China market opened and the market dipped. Or did you even notice maybe you were up early having coffee?
No, I woke up and saw the candle, but then I actually zoomed in. I saw that the candle was on the 15-minute mark. So everything happened within just a few minutes. So also on the Sunday, on super low liquidity, which leads me to believe that probably a few big players caused it. Also curious to hear what you guys are thinking about it. But now it's up to the market to prove that 42,000 for one Bitcoin is too cheap and to rebound. Because yes, a few players can start this move to the downside and can liquidate some positions, but at the end of the day, it's up to the market to price us, and that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's let me just play with these cameras a second. I gotta pop them all in, and we're going to talk about kind of our agenda loosely. So one of the things, one more. Where am I? That's not me. So, hang on 1 second. Camera. There. And then when I pop you guys in, here we go. Juggling scenes. So
Perfect.
Oh dear, somebody's got to make something that's foolproof for me. But so we will talk about kind of, is it a time to panic or a time to profit? And these are opportunities that people like me actually wait for. When it happens, it's like drop everything, you go, and then you buy at things. Because I've been talking openly, it's like 42,000 is a very memorable level in Bitcoin from previous cycles. It was historically a resistance level, and then it became a support level. You know, there was a time, so I think somebody remembered exactly 2 years ago, there was a show called Art Basel, and Bitcoin price fell from 54K to 42K and bounced. That was a support level. So it's good to see now we broke through the 42. And when I talk 42, people, it's plus or minus a couple $100. That's how support levels work. And C2, you can talk about that too. But now, do you believe this could hold, this historical level? Could hold for the actual space? And before we get started as well, before I forget, don't forget to subscribe to CTO and Ivan. The links are right below. But what do you think in terms of this 42K level? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I have some some thoughts, not shorts. So I share my screen here.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys can see it.
Let me see. Yes. This one.
Yes, exactly. Maybe can make it a little bigger.
Yep.
Exactly. So here's what happened. So this is the 5-minute chart. This is the price here. So you can see that actually it was mostly in a 5-15 minutes that price dropped here. Below here you see the aggregated open interest. That means leverage position, or rather longs or shorts that people have open. And then you see that at exactly at the same 5 minutes, those positions went from 11.8 billion down to 10.6 billion. So about $1.2 billion in longs got wiped out there. So that was the objective with this dump.
Yep.
You hunt people's stops basically, or the point where they will get liquidated. And they did so very successfully because they managed to hunt $1.2 billion. So that's what this was. And it's not something, organic or something like that. No. So that's what it was. Then coming to your point here about support levels, this line that I've drawn here, I didn't add now. If people go back to previous streams, you'll see that it was there because that has been a level going back all the way to 2021 and even beginning of 2021. So
and that's
just
the
like
resistance I was talking about at the very beginning, and
yeah,
then it flipped into support.
exactly, and that's where it bounced back now. So of course it seems like magic lines, but often these levels kind of work because people remember prices, and for now it has bounced back and is still holding above that. If it drops further, if we get any price action, something like this, I would draw your attention to the volume here, that we had a lot of volumes below here. I'm not predicting this will happen. I'm just saying in case we wake up tomorrow and it's sitting here, I would think that this would be very strong support somewhere around here. But for now, we're holding above this support level as well. That was resistance in the past. And I think it's looking good.
Yep.
It's looking good.
It is.
And if I can just add one more thing, then I will be quiet. I actually did reduce positions a little bit on Friday. And that was because of this. And the bonds market made something. Last Friday, it had a big bounce here in the US 2-year government bonds. And often when this shoots up, speculative assets drop. Now, nothing much has happened with the stocks, but perhaps at least it helped with the narrative to, if you're trying to manipulate the price down, you need some narrative as well. And maybe that was the narrative that kind of preceded this dump. Okay, that's what I thought to share.
And there is a lot of concern that inflation is back and the US has no control. So that's one of the other angles too that could be a little bit concerning. Let me pop this up too. It's not part of my. I'll try minimize jiggles. What do you think, Ivan? Was it leverage flush out?
Let me show you a picture which summarizes this, because we just had Thanksgiving and everyone told their friends, their parents, their cousin to get into crypto. Crypto is coming back, and now everyone is getting the text from the same cousin. Crypto is dead. I thought you were, I thought you were bullish. What the hell? Now it's down. So the cousin right now is freaking out, and the bears are euphoric as always because they said to short at 15K, and now we dump. So obviously they were right to short them. But listen, guys, like CTO pointed out, we have the support level holding quite strongly. Yeah. At the same time, as we may see a correction still of 30% in the bull market, it happens. Like it happens. So mentally, I'm prepared for that as well. We could break down to that breakout from 30K that we had. It's not impossible. Personally, I'm giving 30% chance to that scenario and 70% chance of this support holding, and that's why I'm positioning accordingly. And also, I'm buying the dip and DCing. But now it's literally the time to buy the dip. Normally, we speak about time to buy the dip, get into the market when it's dipping, but especially now, I've been showing the short last week as well. Sure. Tether is up each and every week. You see how big the candles are. Each and every week, we have Tether increasing by basically $1 billion, around $1 billion they add each week. This new week just started, but most likely is gonna end in a similar fashion where it goes up. So here I'm quite certain that we're gonna keep printing stable coins as market is expanding. And yeah, this pullback, it's any bull market, you're gonna have it. Kazin is freaking out. Kazin should know that it's time to sit down in the boat and take it easy, because these are opportunities, and especially in many altcoins who have taken an even bigger dip right now. So if you believe in altcoins, it's a good price for you right now.
Good. And let's take some perspective as well. Despite the flash crash, this is the crazy thing. Crypto Bitcoin is still up 5% in the last 7 days, and it fell 4% last night. And people are freaking out. What's also interesting is there are a couple of names that actually went up during the flash crash. And normally when the mothership goes down like this, everybody freaks out. A lot of people were waiting, which is actually great. The people that aren't on the train, they get to buy at 42K, which is awesome. But there are names like Injective and Render. They were not affected. And they have names like Orca that doubled over the weekend. And so what's going on? Is it altcoin season, or is it not? Or is it just select names are pumping and they're completely unaffected by Bitcoin? This is what I found very interesting over the weekend. Ivan, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, in a bull market, when Bitcoin takes a breather, it gives altcoins an opportunity to run, because many altcoins have been taking a back seat because of all of this ETF stuff, and we're all excited about Bitcoin ETF, Bitcoin's leading the market. But in bull markets, normally when Bitcoin comes down and goes sideways, many altcoins do very, very well. All of you guys who are watching and who have been here in the DeFi summer during the last cycle, it was very similar. Bitcoin took a bit of a breather, and then all other altcoins exploded. And also many people have seen the power of altcoins, and that altcoins can be their own market with their own narratives. Everything that happened with the airdrops on Solana during the last week, we're going to get into that. So people see this momentum that is even bigger than just following Bitcoin. It's not just, Bitcoin pumps and we follow. It's way, way bigger. And market is seeing that and is betting accordingly.
I'm glad you said that, Ivan. The market is maturing into separate categories and narratives, and they are unaffected by Bitcoin. CTO, do you concur with that statement?
I think that we haven't even seen the beginning of the altcoin runs yet, despite the fantastic developments in Solana. But overall, I think it's just the beginning. Yeah, I think the whole altcoin rally is still ahead in this cycle.
Okay, let's tackle just want to get this stuff out of the way before we get into the big stuff. So a lot of talk about the Bitcoin crash. Who did it? Was it whales? Was it CME gap? Was it a leverage adjustment? It was a leverage adjustment, and this one points exactly to that, and the same stuff you pointed to, CTO, as well. And it's kind of this stuff, when you see all that leverage, I've been talking about the over $5 billion in futures contracts exploding because institutions want to get exposure to Bitcoin, there's going to be a correction. It's very, very normal, as Ivan's technical chart said with the cousins. I thought it was funny. But remember, the perspective of how small this was. Yes, between $500 million and $1 billion was wiped out of leverage longs. But those corrections are healthy, and they're required to flush that leverage long positions and bring the Bitcoin funding rates back to normal. That's just how markets work. So it's important for the viewers here to understand the mechanics of markets behind the scenes and the huge exposure that was in futures. Of course, when things get out of whack, they need to be brought back in line. And that's the simple part. In fact, one other little chart on this, just so people understand exactly how it happened. This is typically, after the rampage that Bitcoin has been on, it takes a correction. This is from a guy called Van Straten, and everybody expects regular 10% pullbacks, sometimes even 20% pullbacks during bull markets. These are called bull market corrections. And again, 10% is the norm. Sometimes 20% can happen. What's also interesting is the Binance open interest was wiped out, and the CME and the Binance open interest divergence continues to grow. So people are leaving Binance as a platform for futures, and they're going much more to CME, which is the Chicago Mercantile Exchange in the US. Any thoughts on this reason? I'm sure you're both in agreement. That's exactly what happened. It was just a leverage adjustment.
Yeah, and the key thing here is to always set your stop loss. I mean, even if you're super bullish, but you're using leverage, use leverage as a way to decrease risk, because you can use smaller amounts and have the same exposure. And if you set the stop loss and risk management correctly, you can execute your strategy way better and more capital efficient. And I watched, for example, another YouTuber, Martini guy. I mean, he's very diligent in his trades, but he said something very interesting. He said, I lost one time $6 million in leverage using small leverage. He lost it using like 3x leverage. He got stuck in a trade, and since then he's using only high leverage and small position size of his own capital in order to minimize risk. So these are the things that are so important in this bull market, because yes, we're going up, you can make life-changing gains, but using leverage, actually you can decrease risk, and that's the proper way to use it. Use less of your own capital, set stop loss, and then you can have bigger exposure via leverage, if that's your risk profile, of course.
Yeah, but when you look at the stop loss issue, and this is the problem I always have with crypto, these wicks are so violent, and they reach down, literally. Imagine a machine reaching down and grabbing those stop losses so they can liquidate you. That's why these Bybits and all these firms make so much money and offer so many incentives, because they wipe you all day long. You know, it's almost like a rug pull. So playing stop losses in crypto, I find extremely dangerous. CTO, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, I don't use automatic stop losses at all. Exactly for that reason, because they get hunted,
Yes.
right? If you look at the chart and then you figure out a reasonable place to put the stop loss, maybe below support or at some pattern invalidation or something, I can see it. And then a lot of other seasoned traders will see the same thing. So they will put the stop loss at the same place, perhaps.
Yeah.
The people who hunt them can also see it. They can guess. Probably people have put the stop loss there, just below support or below the previous low, or if it's like a short, just above the previous high or something like that. So they're going to run the price exactly there and then reverse it.
Yeah.
And often this happens very quickly. It can happen like in 5-10 minutes or something, but it will trigger the stop losses if they are automatic. While if doing it manually, they will not trigger. So
Yeah.
I actually only do manual decision. I decide like, okay, if the candle has closed, tomorrow I will log in, I will do the, exit the position or
But
something.
it depends on the time frame. I mean, if you're trading, depends on what kind of trader you are. If you're doing intraday, that probably works. But crypto is also 24/7. So this stop loss issue, it is an issue. That's why normally in crypto people set not exactly at the support level, but a bit. So you gotta like. It's 3D chess. You know that this is the level that everyone is expecting, and you set a bit below or a bit above. But absolutely,
you can do that. You can kind of avoid putting like the normal, like the expected point, and you put it below that or something like that. But I've actually simulated it, and it's so frequent. These scam wicks, as we call them in crypto, right? They are so common that in my simulation, at least, I got better result from not putting the automatic stop loss. I mean, there is a big disadvantage. It depends. I mean, so don't copy this strategy without having the full context now, everyone who's listening, because it depends on the position size as well. If you have like one big position only and you take this strategy and then you wake up and it's gone to almost zero tomorrow, of course, then you lost all your money. Then this was a very bad strategy, right? I'm talking
you
on
don't want to be
over
like
many positions.
you don't want to be like Caroline from FTX, where she said, "Yeah, we don't take like risk man, we don't use stop." But it's all about it's all about the like type of trader, because of course, if you're doing intraday, more long-term moves, then manual makes perfect sense. If you're more short-term, more with this like vision stuff, where it's not really like fundamentals, but more breakout trading, scalping, then obviously you need stop loss. But yes, this 3D chess is a fact of life in crypto, of course.
And I've you dead right there.
Topic actually, and it's a huge topic. We could spend hours talking about this, but just to kind of highlight that you have to be aware of this issue. If you're not aware that your stop losses probably will get hunted, things will not go well for you in this market, because this happens all the time.
Exactly. And people, if they look at their chart, say they're looking at a 1 minute chart, they think, oh, the price only went down to say 41,800 or 41,770. When you look at the 1 second chart, it went all the way down to 40,000. So if you had your stop loss, say just under 42K that you thought was support, you're finished. Even if you added another 1,000, went under 41,000, you were finished. They hunted you, just like CTO said. But one thing, two things. Caroline thing, as a market maker, yeah, you need stop losses. Second of all, you can also implement stop losses, like trailing stop losses. If, for example, Bitcoin goes on a rampage, this is where you do use a stop loss for things like Bitcoin, and you want to start layering out and taking profit. Yeah, do it all day long. Don't worry about that then. But we're not at that stage right now. It's still an accumulation stage. Speaking of accumulation stage, this chart I thought was very interesting. And the only point everybody needs to know here, don't need to zoom into it too much, but now we have over 20 million addresses in Bitcoin with over $100. Remember, $100 is a lot of money in many places in the world. In many countries in the world, $100 is what people earn in a month. Do you guys have any thoughts of this? But just look at how vertical it's going in a very short window of time. This is incredible for so early in the bull market. At this rate, if you take historic extensions, this could be 50 million people with $100 in the next year and a half. What do you guys think? I see you nodding, Ivan. I'll give it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we have both two things at the same time. One thing is that the long-term holders are still increasing. So the supply is still being concentrated in the hands of long-term holders. At the same time, this is also going up. So this is, I mean, the way I'm looking at it is that we still don't have retail fully onboarded. This is maybe that these long-term holders are just redistributing into smaller wallets, but $100 is so little. I mean, normally you put a few K at least when you're redistributing. So this one is quite interesting. I don't know the full answer to that. Happy to hear your guys' opinion. But in general, right now, when you look at which people are having more and more supply of Bitcoin, it is long-term holders. But that's not necessarily, that doesn't necessarily mean that small players still cannot come in and still accumulate, because it's so small. I'm $100. And yes, in many countries it's a lot. But on the bigger grand scheme of things, it's still that long-term holders accumulate more. But these two things can be true at the same time, that we see more smaller wallets and long-term holders still accumulate more.
And before we go to CTO, I'd love to see this broken down by country, because after all the change you've seen in places like Argentina, after things that have happened in Lebanon with banking, Turkey, Nigeria, countries all over the world, they can no longer keep their fiat in a bank. The trust of governments and banks has gone out the window. And people are desperate. You work all month for $100 and you're in, I don't know, Ecuador or Zimbabwe or whatever else. You want to be able to store that money safely somehow, and you do not trust your bank anymore. So I know you've traveled the world a lot, CTO. What's your perspective on this? You've lived in countries where maybe $100 is a lot of money. How do you see this playing out? And do you think people have lost trust in banks all across the world and the new safe haven is Bitcoin?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot more Bitcoin holders than this, actually. I mean, it's a difficult question to answer. How many people own Bitcoin? Because one person can have multiple addresses, and multiple people can share the same address, because if they're on a centralized exchange, the centralized exchange doesn't keep each person money on a separate address. They're all in one big address, and then they have like an SQL database to keep track of who has with how many Bitcoins. So you can't see it from the on-chain. I tried to check now if there is any updated numbers, but there was some study in of 2022 that from crypto.com that concluded 219 million people owning Bitcoin. So as we have talked about many times on this channel, I think that many of the countries that are not in the West have a chance to leapfrog here, because many of them, they've had problems with high inflation, they've had many other problems, and Bitcoin seems like a great alternative in a way that we don't really feel here in the West, or many people don't feel, at least. The banks, we kind of trust the banks and trust the government in general and so on and so forth. So people don't feel the pressing need. But if you have like 50% inflation, or if you can't move your money, or someone's going to take them, Bitcoin seems like a great alternative from day one, and maybe putting a couple of $100 there seems like a big deal. So yeah, absolutely. But I would have loved to see some study on this that actually conclude on a people level more than the address level.
Yeah,
and I'm going to research that, actually.
I've done that actually for whole coiners, and I've been doing it for years because I was obsessed back in 2017. I'm wondering, the question I always asked myself was, having one whole Bitcoin, will that be life-changing in the future? So since then, like 6 or 7 years, I've been calculating how many whole coins there are and how many people on average, how many wallets do people on average have, etc. And I concluded that there'll never be more than 330,000 whole coiners. And each time somebody like Sailor goes out and buys, 16,000 Bitcoin or something, you deny a huge amount of people the ability to ever become a whole coiner, unless they do it by proxy, by buying MicroStrategy shares. And that's what's fascinating. So the exact number is somewhere between 250,000 whole coiners to 330,000. And when you see stats from Glassnode saying, oh, over 1 million people have a whole coin, or over 1 million addresses have a whole coiner. No. There's many of those. Sometimes 10 people will have 10 addresses, the same individual. And that's what people need to take into account. But I've done multiple videos on that, and it's fascinating. We should talk in detail and analyze our perspectives on that in a future show. It could be a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to add, we had one comment here. Sajid Khan wrote in the comments, BTC in Pakistan already broke all-time high. So this is exactly what you're
Turkey,
hinting at.
Argentina, Russia, so many countries it keeps breaking all-time highs because the fiat is going down fast. The amount of debt being printed is insane. And in fact, going back to one thing that Ivan said here regarding long-term holders, people not selling, this is a new record too. 31% of all Bitcoin has not moved in over 5 years. That may not sound very, very interesting, but that is a big deal. 31% of over 19 million is stuck. And I guarantee you, a big chunk of that is lost forever as well. Now, one interesting topic as well, which is a generational topic. If you want to know how markets work, it's very important to look at demographs. And I made a post last night on this one. Not this chart itself. This chart just popped in this morning from Econometrics. But what's interesting is when you look at all the wealth in the world, a huge portion of it is within people that are kind of 65, 67 years or older, all the way up to 90 years of age. Basically, 80% of the world's wealth is held by this demographic. And they're beginning to shed that wealth, especially over the next 10 years. They'll be shedding it more aggressively. And when you break it all down, $100 trillion will be on the move in a massive generational wealth transfer. That means $100 trillion will go from the super wealthy boomers, etc., all the way down the food chain. Sometimes it'll go to people who are 40, 50 years of age. Sometimes it'll go to people directly who are 25, 30 years of age, and everything else in between. But what's interesting about this statistic is if you break it down, and I'll share it with you guys later, the impact, if you have the younger generation, they no longer, they want to be flexible. They don't want to be tied down and buy a house. They no longer want to get married. They want to go on trips and travel the world and do gig jobs and live in a place and couch surf and all that good stuff. But they do like to invest in crypto. Mm-hmm. So if you imagine a growth factor ranging from the amount of that 100 trillion going into crypto, if it's a tiny fraction versus a pretty big fraction, basically somewhere between 6x the current total market cap of crypto to 300x is where the market cap is going to go over the next 10 years, with 30x being a reasonable estimate. So if the market cap's 1.5 trillion today, it's going to 45 trillion pretty easily. And that is stunning. What do you guys think of that data?
Yeah, I love this discussion about real estate versus other assets and Bitcoin in the younger generation, because real estate is kind of, when an altcoin launches and it's at billions, kind of like Sui or Aptos, and you feel, man, there was no IDO, there was no way to buy early. It's already so expensive, and you're not even part of that. So you're not interested. Like, you don't even try to get into it because there are so many other coins that are cheaper. Real estate is like that for the young generation because it's been so expensive for the last decade that there was no way to get in. So most people in the young generation, they've made money with crypto. If you've ever invested and it gone well for you, it's either in crypto or this like tech growth stocks that you've been able to make your money. So now that this generation is growing up, obviously that is closest to our heart. That is where we have our default wealth generating vehicles. While the older generation, they could buy houses super cheap. I think Coinbase are doing these ads now very extensively where they show, okay, your grandma could buy the house with 2 years worth of salary. And now it's like 8 years worth of salary. So at that point, all of the older people in older generation, they felt that, man, the house is the fantastic vehicle for network generation. And now the same thing is happening with crypto in the younger generation. Is the best way to grow your net worth. So absolutely. And then I think UCTO had a video a long time ago about this as well, that there has been research done on this, that the younger generation trusts crypto more than banks, and banks want to cater to their clients. And right now their clients are the older generation. And as that changes, all of the financial institutions, all the banks will be pro crypto because that's where the clients will be. And that's where you gotta be as well if you have any kind of financial service.
So, and another, just a proof point, if crypto does do a 30x, that means Bitcoin's going to 1.2 million, which is kind of hard to even wrap your head around. But in a very short window of time, it's theoretically possible based on this demographic data. And you can tell a lot by markets by looking at how money moves. Follow the money. CTO, any thoughts on this one? Or is it just
Oh,
hope?
absolutely. I agree 100%. Ivan summed it up very well. Absolutely. If you ask young people today, they don't like buying real estate for the simple reason that they cannot. Like say in Stockholm or something, if you're 25, you get a good job, maybe you even have like a fiance or something. Even together, you cannot buy a house in Stockholm, probably. While 20 years ago or 30 years ago, you could. So they're not interested in that. They're not interested in bonds or something. It seems pointless. So they're interested in tech stocks, maybe. And most people are interested in crypto because that's one way that you can reasonably, if you're young, make some serious money. And it's high risk, but if you make your salary and you lose it, okay, you can earn back the salary next month. You're willing to take some risk when you're young. You're fine with the rug pull and the giant risks and everything, because if you get lucky once, maybe it actually changes your life. And that means that when Jamie Dimon and all those people sit and say that they're against crypto, okay, but the boss of the CEO is the customers.
Yes.
So, and now his boss, the customers, are not that interested. But I'm telling you, when all his customers are coming and saying, we want Bitcoin price exposure, we want exposure to this altcoin and that altcoin and everything, there's going to be products. He won't say, okay, then please go to my competitor and disappear. He's not going to say that. He's going to try to offer what the customers want. And exactly, it's a fantastic analysis. As more younger generations get access to this wealth, they will be interested in crypto, and there will be products and offerings and solutions. Absolutely, 100%.
It's so true.
And the banks they're digging their own grave now, because they're starting to prohibit crypto. Like in Sweden, we have the certificates and in Europe you can buy this like ETNs. Some banks have said you cannot buy it in our bank. If you have brokerage with our bank, you are not allowed to buy it. I mean, the arrogance of the banker to tell anyone that you cannot buy any, like, who are you? And why are you setting these rules? Like, the rage of the young generation is going to be so massive that some banker who's never touched crypto, who is fully unrelatable, is setting rules thinking that he or she is some kind of overlord. It doesn't work nowadays. Banker is not a respectable job nowadays. 50 years ago, the banker in town was a very respectable job. You say, my son is a banker, you're a proud parent, you tell he works at the bank. Man, right now you tell that it's going to be hard at Thanksgiving, because half of people are anti-bank, half of people are wrecked by inflation, half of people are in crypto. You don't want to say that your son isn't banking. You want to say that he's programmer. And by the way, he's in crypto. And that's, you said, CTO, that you can take a risk if you're young in crypto. Actually, there is a way where you don't take risk, and that's if you work in crypto. Guys, if you're young, try to work in crypto. Development, marketing, like, do something. Especially if you are in these developing countries. We just said that $100 is a lot in developing countries. Man, if you go full-time crypto, you're gonna be 10x, 20x, 30x that easy if you just know the basics. And you can apply it somehow in the crypto space, whether it's development, programming, market, like, you will figure it out. This industry is crazy, full of opportunities. So definitely try to do that and have zero risk and be exposed to crypto.
I can just add one thing there, that if someone was against certificates, I think they just haven't understood what it is. So they see Bitcoin in the name and they get scared probably. But I think in general, I think the banks are going to love these ETFs, and we're going to see a whole different narrative coming up. They will say things, they will say exactly what Jamie Dimon said on that hearing, that crypto is very risky and scammy and criminals and blah, 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 blah. But if you instead get the price exposure through our ETF product, then that is completely transparent, and the reporting is complete, and we guarantee that it's compliant to all the regulation and so on and so forth.
But what is Elizabeth Warren gonna do? Because either she's convinced herself against crypto, and she's on an anti-crypto campaign, or she's paid by the banks, and she will also change her tune. She just said that 50% of North Korea is sponsored, like their rocket program is sponsored by Bitcoin. So that would be amazing if she suddenly changed her tune and said, actually, the ETF is the best. If you want exposure, go to the Bitcoin ETF. What do you guys think?
Well, it's funny when you talk about that. Hamas terrorists openly proclaimed, do not donate crypto. Please do not donate crypto to us. It's no good. It can be tracked. Give us cash. I mean, like, literally, Hamas said that. So I'd love to see a debate between Hamas and Elizabeth Warren in a little quiet room somewhere in the
do you
desert.
think she's paid by the banks, or she's
absolutely,
like,
absolutely.
She
So what humans don't realize is you've got people, talking in front of Congress. You've got Jamie Dimon and Elizabeth Warren. Do you think they didn't have a meeting ahead of time talking about game plan and strategy? And then the crap you hear watching TV is what you're designed to hear. Okay, you have Al Gore, I tweeted last night, comes out and says, we are very worried now when people are finding alternatives to mainstream media, democracy could fail, which is code for, we're worried about the truth coming out. Okay, this is what's going on, and this is all related. It's related to crypto, it's related to stocks, finance, big banks, government. It's all completely related. And the quicker you people out there learn how rigged the system is against you, the better off you are. Ivan.
And now we have Alex Jones back on Twitter. That was the best from yesterday when he got back on Twitter. So now the globalists are in big trouble, guys, because he's
and
back.
I honestly didn't know who Alex Jones was until there was talk of freedom of speech over the weekend, and there was all consternation. But last night there was a podcast. Elon Musk, a guy called Alex Jones, a guy called Vivek. Right. Another guy that apparently is accused of doing things with trafficking and such. I mean, you've got a weird category of people, but they're all on the same page around freedom of speech.
I mean, guys, for me, it's all merging because I've been listening to Alex Jones for years. Like, I'm not super deep fanatic, but he's been on air for like 20, and he's always been anti-establishment. And for the longest time, he's been this crazy guy, with the tinfoil hat and like saying crazy things. And I listened to him. I mean, some things he always said which made sense. Also, he said many crazy things. But then you have Elon and Tesla and like the world's richest man and startups, and then crypto, and now it's kind of like all coming together, like and the establishment is falling and everything else is coming together. I mean, it's crazy how all of these timelines are becoming one timeline, and you see Elon Musk and Alex Jones and on Twitter doing a live stream, which would be impossible just like 3-5 years ago. So the world is changing very quickly in this freedom direction.
And a US presidential candidate and some other guy who's also very controversial. But you get these four folks talking at the same time. It's kind of bizarre. Anyway, let's get back to crypto. This is interesting. So there's been a lot of flippenings happening. You've got a lot of things going up the charts, overtaking other things. But people thought this would never, ever happen. People thought Ethereum is the 800-pound gorilla. It runs everything. 90% of this runs on Ethereum. 90% of that runs on Ethereum. Well, DEX volumes are changing very quickly, as you both know from things like Rune and some of the DEXs on Solana. And now Solana just literally, it eclipsed 3 days ago the NFT volume for Ethereum. Now, Bitcoin has eclipsed Ethereum on NFT volume. Like that's mind-blowing, and the ETH maxis are losing their heads. What do you think of this transformation here? Is this because people are tired of MetaMask and tired of extortionate fees? Or is something else happening?
I think in crypto we're cyclical. We go through different narratives, but it's also the fact that everyone in the world right now is farming Solana airdrop. Like I myself, is sending transactions with this JTO airdrop. Solana has so many users that are trying it, which is fantastic for the dApps, and it's one of these moments. It's kind of like in ETH DeFi. 5 years ago, most people didn't have MetaMask. They just had ETH on exchanges. They used Bitcoin and ETH on exchanges, and then with the DeFi summer, with all the airdrops, you can get compound, like all of this, DeFi airdrops on ETH. You had to have MetaMask. And when it started, it was just a few people, and then everyone wanted to farm airdrops, and then DeFi became big on ETH and so much adoption. So Solana is now experiencing the same thing, which is super exciting, where you have people not getting, $100 airdrop. They get like 10,000, 50,000, which happened with JTO earlier last week. And it's fantastic because it is this ignition that is required to have the growth, organic growth of users on the platform to get people to install the wallet and so on and so forth. So they're riding this trend very nice. And Bitcoin, of course, is ordinals. It's a massive hype, and some people are buying, some people are selling. There's a bit of discussion whether Bitcoin devs will remove ordinals or not, but it just brings more attention to them, and that's why Bitcoin is high up as well. So the main thing I feel for Solana now is to keep this momentum up, like have nice dApps, more airdrops, and to capitalize on the attention, because the whole world is now full on farming Solana, using Solana, exploring Solana. So it's fantastic for the ecosystem.
And all we care about is adoption in the space, because the more users, the more Metcalfe's law, the higher the total value of the whole space. CTO, what are your thoughts on this? Did this surprise you?
I'm very happy. I mean, I always like my overall stand on the whole crypto is that the technology, I can guarantee is going to be here. This is a groundbreaking technology in the history of mankind, that we can send something electronically from one person to another without a third party in between. That before we couldn't do it, Bitcoin was the first solution to it. But then which implementation of that will be leading in which use case is very difficult to predict. Very difficult. It seems like nothing will ever change, but then suddenly it does. Can Ethereum be overtaken by something else, some other use case, some other implementation of the similar idea that kind of does it better, faster, cheaper, and gets more traction? Yeah, I think it's possible. And I think it even swearing in the church, I don't think it's going to happen this cycle. But if we look at, 20-year period, could there be some other coin instead of Bitcoin that take the money use case, at least the payment aspect of it? Is that possible? Yeah, I think it's possible. So I'm very happy to see this kind of shuffling happening. It drives innovation. I'm pro innovation, love to see it. And I can see that a lot of Bitcoin maximalists are very angry. Transaction fees are up. And I saw someone tweeted, guys, do you want Internet of Money, or do you want pictures on the blockchain? But yeah, I mean, this is people can do what they want on the blockchain, and there's finally action in the space, and I love it. Ethereum is threatened on one of their key use cases. Maybe they will start shaping up.
Yeah, and like you said, it's all about innovation, because if, let's say, Solana has a dApp which reaches mass adoption in some game or something, I mean, everything is gonna pump like hell, because if something becomes big, now people want the next thing, which they can be early in. So in crypto, I don't see that, something becomes big and then it's like big dragon sitting on all the gold, no one else makes profit. Vice versa, it's someone makes something big, amazing. Then it's whole new bull market, whole new opportunities, and there's always something new that people make. And we discussed it last week, that there's always an incentive to make a new coin or a better tech, and so on and so forth, build a new community. And it's also not mutually exclusive, because you can have some big NFTs, like whether it's Bored Apes or Penguins on ETH, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars per NFT. Then you can have a bunch of small gaming NFTs where you just, $1, half a dollar, bam, 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 a lot of transactions all the time. So it's not either or that something is going to eat anything else. I'm more looking forward to, like I'm saying, that we're going to have like the network. And the network is all blockchains being interoperable with bridges and speaking to each other. So all in all, looking forward to mainstream use case on any of the chain, whether it's Solana or something else, because that will bring so much attention and lift all the boats. And
there's very interesting mathematics behind that. So for crypto to really become that $10 trillion market cap, we need to be able to onboard 1 billion users. And the linchpin to getting to 1 billion users is one app that has 100 million users. Once that happens, the space has 1 billion users. So something needs to be found that's kind of addictive enough, maybe like, I don't know, Words with Friends on crypto. Well, it's probably going to be a game or a gambling app or something, or an NFT trading place, and that'll have 100 million users. It'll be everything else. And then that will infect a cottage ecosystem of other little plays. as we go forward. So it's going to be super, super interesting.
And
Um,
with Solana, let me pull this up here on the screen. Let's see, where's Solana? There. So with Solana, look, your volume is at an all-time high. So people are transacting like maniacs, and I mean, partially I think lately it's due to the airdrop stuff, but also even before that, it's been trending up very, very nicely. In terms of TVL, it's still a way to go, but it feels that a lot of use cases now it's not driving TVL as much as before. But also Sol, if Sol just goes back to all-time high, probably is going to recoup most of this TVL. Another chain that is gaining TVL is, if you look at Tron, this thing is quite stably up, but it has just a few use cases around just-in-sans like stablecoin stuff.
And
then
Tron's all gambling, Chinese gambling.
Chinese gambling, and it's the biggest chain for like stablecoins. I think USDT is the biggest on Tron. And then James, I know you hate, or I don't know if you hate, but I think you don't like Cardano. But Cardano anyway in TVL is all-time high, and in USD and other terms, so they are getting their stuff running. Although it's not fair to compare to Solana fully because they've just been around since like 2022 with smart contracts, so we didn't see this spike in the bull market. Then let's see, Polygon still, I mean, Polygon has a lot of room to come back in both TVL and transactions. So, I mean, overall, we are coming back in some places of this market, and it's good to see. I mean, overall, people are using on-chain way more. On-chain markets are now bigger than they were just a few months back, and that's across ecosystems. And let's see which one goes to all-time high the highest.
Exactly. And by the way, there's one thing. I just want to correct Ivan. There's one thing. I don't hate anything or anybody.
Yeah, I know.
What I look at is relative value. When I see something with 30,000 users and it is more market cap than something with 600,000 users, that's a problem. And that's what I point out. So I'm kind of like a value investor in crypto that likes disruption. So a value investor on steroids. Exactly. CTO.
Yeah, can I share also from the same source that Ivan shared? Because it's very interesting, this actually. And there's a compare chart feature, if you can share my screen.
Juggling screens is really tricky for me right now. Which one is it? This one?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So here I'm comparing two chains. So this is the TVL. For the green one is BSC and the blue one is Solana. And I see two things. We can actually add Tron here also that Ivan mentioned. So what we can see here is that BSC was very dominating in the previous cycle because it was cheap, it was fast, and I mean, people care more about permissionless than decentralized. Now that has really dropped a lot. And Tron has been pretty flat, which is a strong case. But look at Solana here. It has really turned up, but look how far it is from these levels. So what I want to show with that is that the upside is still huge here. Even if, no matter what we compare with, if we compare with the history, if we compare with other chains, I mean, Tron is, 9 times bigger than Solana in terms of TVL today. So I think that there is huge upside actually here in these charts. It always feels like things can never go higher and probably there will be some correction now and so on. But I mean, that's the great thing with this whole industry, that things often go much further than seems reasonable. And at least looking here, there seems there's more upside to go.
Yeah, exactly. Let me now bring my camera back. Sometimes for some reason, I got to pop me up first. And then
and just to continue what you just said, Sitio, like the crypto markets, they make money almost not real because things can go dump like 95%. And then what the hell? It comes back. I had the coin. It's called Iagon. I bought it in the last bull market. I was one in the pre-sale. Then it went to zero, minus 98.9%. And I randomly checked it. It was back to all-time high. That's crazy. I mean, in the bull market, it's crazy. It went back. It's like money is not real. And the same thing with Solana. Like Solana has been pumping a lot. Many people who invested, as we've been discussing on these DCA streams, also made like 7x. But then you look, it still has like 70. How much is like 60-70%, maybe 75% to all-time high. So like you say, Sito, like the upside is massive still in this markets, although we've already had quite a good run already, but we're definitely not late. It's super early still.
Okay, let's switch gears now. Let's talk about ecosystems. So I've become, obviously, I'm very focused on one, and I'm building out a portfolio in one ecosystem. And it's, even despite the dip, it's crazy. So adding names. So what I do is I look at adoption, and I look at the ETH analog and compare them, and compare relative market caps, and decide where to play. And I look at the chart and determine the timing. But do you guys look at any particular ecosystems right now that you're looking at? And what narratives are your favorite? Is it NFT marketplaces? Is this gaming? Is it gambling? Is it DEXs? Where do you guys like to play? CT, I'll give this to you first.
I try to look at a lot of coins. I don't actually have a specific narrative or a specific ecosystem that I favor. I try to force myself to keep an open mind, so that if something gains traction, I don't dismiss it, because it's so easy. If I know one field, it's so easy, at least for me personally, to get lazy. I feel that there's something new I never heard about. I don't really understand it. It's probably not good anyway. That's my gut reaction, and I try to combat that by forcing myself to have an open mind. So if there is something where there is something happening, there's price action, someone is buying for some reason, I force myself to look at it and see if I think that it has some potential to go somewhere. And then I have like a checklist and some criteria to determine that. But I guess I really try to combine the pumpamentals and the fundamentals together. From Ivan's song.
Together.
It sums it up, actually. It sums it up. I try to do that, and I try to be open-minded. If there's some new ecosystem tomorrow that I've never heard about, but actually seems good, I might be interested in that one.
Okay, Ivan. Yeah, I know you're much more on narratives. What are the sexiest narratives, and what are the sexiest ecosystems?
Solana is right now. It's all about farming Solana. It's very important because it is not even May anymore. It is reaching breakout velocity where the average Joe has Phantom Wallet. And that's, for me, the biggest metric, because if the average Joe has Phantom Wallet now, they can transfer more of the wealth into Solana. And that's what we've been discussing throughout the streams over and over again. Will Solana get more of the wealth of crypto or not? And if they have Phantom Wallet, they can easily start bridging from ETH or somewhere else into Solana. It's very good. And that's happening now. With the airdrops, it's literally happening right now. Then, like I mentioned, because ADA is breaking out, and because they have stuff that works. Like, I know for many people it may sound unbelievable, but they do have DeFi that now works as TVL is going up. I'm trying it out as well. Like, I'm not investing too much because I'm very new to it, and I want to also understand it in detail, like how this extended UTXO works. So we will do some interview with one of the Solana, with one of the Cardano devs. He will try to explain it to me. But that's one where, if you want to be the prophet of the next one, next hype, next trend, you can try out different ecosystems. Then in general, like across, if we leave the chains for a bit and look across the chains, is GameFi, because if one single game succeeds with any kind of meaningful adoption with a few million players worldwide, it's amazing. And many of the games that we're seeing right now, they are developed by non-crypto people and they bring them to crypto. So we have real game developers entering crypto now and creating new games. A lot of the game projects I speak to now, because I try to learn as much as possible about the new projects that are coming online, they're all looking at games to purchase or games to acquire, or do a joint venture with some non-Web3 startup, non-Web3 studio, and make it Web3, because traditional games will not add crypto themselves. We in this industry need to create fun games, and it takes a lot of time, and we'll have a lot of games that have been in development as well that have been created from scratch by crypto teams. And now also we're seeing a lot of this, like pulling in Web2 games and adapting them into Web3. And I think something will come out of it. It's just a question of time, but there's so much action, so there's so much work being done. So some element of luck will happen sooner or later, which is required for gaming. And when it happens, it's like a fire. It can be as huge as the mind can dream, because gaming is the biggest market in the world when it comes to entertainment, bigger than movies, bigger than anything else. So and it's easier to understand, because most of this DeFi stuff, people don't get it. If you start explaining to them TVL, this and that, leverage, lending, APY, APR, like, people don't know that. But people know, man, I kill a dragon, I get this sword or shield, and then I can make money with it and do some staking and get more gold for it. People get that. So this is like mass adoption. And then whatever chain, I mean, that's less important to me, whether the game is on Solana or ETH or whatever, as long as they can get users in. And for that, most games right now, they don't even use wallets. They use MPC tech, where users log in with email, and then a wallet is generated for them, and it's like a non-custodial wallet. There are companies doing this. And that's why chain becomes less of a question, because most Web3 games also, they are not fully running on chain everything. They just have their economies on chain. And then it becomes less of a question of which chain to pick. It's more, can you make a fun game, and then whatever chain we use for these assets, it's a bit secondary. And that's the approach I have right now with gaming. Is it fun or not, and secondary is which chain, and so on and so forth. Because actually, like, Web3 it's a small part of this game right now. It's mainly that they run on traditional servers, and then for their ecosystem and money and all of that, they pick some chain, and that's where the crypto happens.
It's funny, interesting you said that about email giving you kind of like a wallet-esque type of thing. There's also a phone I heard over the weekend, that the Solana phone comes pre-packaged with a coin called Bonk, and basically now Bonk is so valuable it nearly pays for the phone. So
really? Okay. Yeah, I mean, actually, I have Solana phone. I should check it. Maybe I can. I have some airdrop there when I got it. I should check it.
There's this Bonk on there somewhere. At least there was in the beginning. But just breaking news as well. We spoke about the president of Argentina, Javier Milei. He just signed his first executive order, first day in office, reducing the number of government ministries from 21 to 9. Not only are the banks worried, but the governments are worried as well, that they no longer control the narrative. And this guy, between him and people like Bukele and other type of innovative new leaders, I'm actually exactly the same age as this guy, Javier. I think it's just so interesting. They're young guys like me. But let's move on, and we get to a couple of questions. This one,
I mean, just James, can you share my screen for 1 second? I just want to contrast this, what you just said, with cutting government, to what's happening in the EU, where it's vice versa. Look here, this guy, a bureaucrat in the EU, historic. He's writing on Twitter, historic. And you think, man, what is historic? Did you invent something? You built some AGI, some AI? Did you build something? Maybe EU built some crypto or some tech? No, man. They have regulation, the first regulation, continent-wide regulation on AI. It's historic. Man, these bureaucrats, we have too many of them in the EU, and they think that they have a bigger role than they have. I mean, in reality, we need to cut the fat, just like Javier is doing. And otherwise, because what happens otherwise is that bureaucrats create more use case for themselves, because the society is not in need of them. So they need to figure out, what else should we do? We should invent AI, regulation. And now we have a use case. And then, okay, new regulation is needed because we did last year, and this year we have no more use case. Let's find new regulation. And that's how you get into this regulation hell. So I really love what's happening in Argentina. Let's continue like that.
Yeah, it's so good. And then Elon Musk is, of course, ruffling feathers. Now it's kind of, he's always a few steps ahead of people. Now he's saying, okay, the US government wants to arrest him and put him in jail. And he comes out, of course they didn't say that, but literally, if you look behind the scenes, the corporations, etc., are smearing him. They're trying to take him down because they no longer control the narrative, and nothing is more terrifying to the Al Gores, to the WEF, to governments, etc. All the stuff is, as you said, Ivan, it's all happening at the same time, and it's all interconnected. I mean, it's happening fast. And then,
James, I mean, we really need Alex Jones on this stream, because I'm thinking more globally, because globally, I mean, I'm sounding like Alex Jones, but globalists, they are working internationally against Tesla. What's happening in Sweden? Now, I read the union, they want to go international. They try to get Denmark, and I know Denmark is doing something as well now against Tesla from the union side. And I literally read that the unions in Sweden, they said their mission is a global fight against Tesla. because they want like all unions in Europe to do something against them. So yeah, it's definitely global. It's not only US, it's global. And we should ask Alex Jones what he thinks.
And it's all related to kind of first they laugh at you and then they fight you. This is the fight you stage for everything. For everything. Eventually they will lose. But also there's apparently a US politician going after Elizabeth Warren because Gary Gensler had many, not one, many private meetings with FTX. And this shows you the level of corruption that's out there. But it's all, the truth always comes out, which is good. So with that team, we've got to do some questions from the audience. And we have nearly 3,500 people watching live. I don't remember how much. It was the same last week on yours. But despite the slightly buying opportunity that's out there right now, people are still very, very positive. So we got a couple of interesting questions today. First of all, let's go to the first one. From Solar BTC, this is a no shill zone on DCA. So DCA takes the cake always. So people are very happy. Thank you so much, Solar BTC. Next is from Doc Intern regarding the BlackRock ETF. Since BlackRock is a major holder of MicroStrategy, do you think around the time the ETF approval, they may dump MicroStrategy stock to scare people out of MicroStrategy and into their ETF? What approach do you recommend on that time? So that's a very, very good point. What MicroStrategy do is they use whatever they can to stack more Bitcoin, which makes the asset bigger, which means people need to index it in their funds, driving the price up. Any premium they have on the share price they use to buy Bitcoin. And again, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, keeps driving up. Yes, there could be a little blip when the ETF is approved, but MicroStrategy is a different animal. And the beauty of MicroStrategy is it's so tradable. What do you guys think? Do you think MicroStrategy is in jeopardy if the ETF comes out, or it'll just truck along?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel that they should be at NAV. What they have in Bitcoin is like GBTC basically in a way, but with more level. Like they can, but also that they aggressively want to grow their Bitcoin with all kinds of financial. So maybe there's a premium. CTO, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the premium could potentially reduce if there are more options, but that's the small part of MicroStrategy's success. The big success is if Bitcoin goes up in price. That's what it matters. I mean, it doesn't need a premium.
Yeah.
So no problem, I would say.
And they have $1.1 billion for 7 years at guess what interest rate? 0. Imagine buying. Imagine borrowing.
James, so how 0? In what way is 0?
Oh,
is it?
It was a convertible debt deal they did 2 years ago. It was genius. It was freaking genius. Imagine borrowing 1.05 billion to be precise at 0% for 7 years. It's awesome. A beautiful thing. And then using that to buy Bitcoin, that goes up in value. So even with the dip, they're still in profit $2 billion right now. Anyway, enough of that. So I'm not too concerned. There could be a little bit dip, but we will hedge that very carefully when the time comes. This from McLovin, the Irish R&B singer. Is Injective still a buy? Thoughts? Injective, okay, it's been up 21 times this year. I own Injective. I own Render. Injective and Render is two of the names that didn't actually tank over the weekend. Would I buy something after going up 21x? I'd be hesitant. It is a special one, but I think there's other opportunities out there like Injective that can still be got at a reasonable valuation. What are your thoughts? And again, just to prove I don't pump my own bags, here I am telling people not to buy what I own. I did the same thing with Meta.
I have a very strong opinion about this because this is very common, right? You identify something, the trend turns around, or you identify the fundamentals or however you do it, and then it goes up 2,000%. And then comes everyone to ask, should I buy it? Yeah, but you should have bought it when the buying opportunity was, not after the huge pump, because it's generally not a good idea to chase after an entry. If there was a clear entry and you didn't see it for some reason, the conclusion is to improve your process so that you see it next time. The next time there's no similar opportunity, you see it then, you take the position at the bottom when there is an invalidation. So if it doesn't work out, you don't have to hold it 99% down again. You can, exit with a small loss, 10% or something like that. But most people, they won't discover it. So they discover it only after it's all over social media, after it has gone up 10x or 20x.
Yeah.
And then they consider buying. And if doing that consistently, I'm not talking about the injective specifically, I have no idea, it might continue up or something, but if doing that strategy consistently, you will probably fail, because you're always buying after the big pumps, after it's all over social media. And maybe it's all over social media because people, the early entries are trying to sell now, and they need someone to sell too. Maybe that's you. So yeah, no, don't unless there is another clear entry opportunity, don't chase after an entry that was half a year ago or 1 year ago.
Yeah. And in fact, the three things surging today from the top 100 cryptos is Injective, Immutable X, which is gaming, Render. So it is kind of an interesting time out there to see exactly what's pumping. And I always say, get in early, get in hard, and don't chase replace. They're kind of rules. But the momentum of Injective is just mind-blowing. Continues to keep on rolling. Alrighty, let's go to the next question. FinTech TV. Guys, remember back when Bitcoin was 3,500 and it went to 10K? Then it went back to 5K? Are we in that time frame? I'll take this first. Now you guys can chime in. First of all, no, because all the on-chain data is completely different. Bitcoin has never been so hard, so scarce, and we're going into a halving. Okay, the miners are hodling. Institutions are stacking. Every cohort is stacking Bitcoin right now. There simply is too much demand and not enough supply to take it from 10,000 back to 5K, a 50K haircut. So there's still a lot of people hoping for that 20K buy opportunity again, or even 15K, but hope is not a strategy and it's not going to happen. Thoughts, guys? Ivan?
Yeah, I mean, it can definitely pull back to like 20-30% in a bull market. Like it's common. It's common. You look back any bull market, even in the biggest vertical time, when we just go up and up and up, you zoom in a bit, there's always 20-30% dumps. So as long as the overall trend is up, as long as Tether is printing, I'm not worried. But is it good to be mentally prepared for a bit of dumping? Absolutely. It's always good, even in the bull market. And that's why most people, they sell too early, they get spooked too early. Just like we discussed in the beginning, the cousin is already typing to you in your iMessage, in messages, asking why is Bitcoin dumping. But the trend is up. All the fundamentals are up. Halving is next year in a few months, actually. So sit tight and follow the trend. The trend is bullish.
Exactly. The next question is from Red Panda Pie. Pullbacks are healthy in the market. There's a negative divergence in the RSI for Solana. Does that mean we could have a pullback on Solana as I want to buy more? Should I wait a little bit? Well, technically, again, I'm very interested in your thoughts on this. There's been a negative divergence in the RSI on Sol since it was at $20. It went from 20 to 77. So there are times when you need to look at the fundamentals behind the chart. I always say keep your head out the window, look at the macro, look at what's happening. If you believe the RSI, you would have exited the position a long time ago. CTO, what do you think of the RSI on Solana? Does this mean pullback is coming?
I have, I've never found RSI to be helpful in crypto trading.
Exactly.
Full stop. So I don't care about it. The thing is that crypto can pump so much so long that if you start using that, now RSI is so high, so it should dump. But then it doesn't. It just keeps pumping, and the RSI just keeps staying on very high levels for a very long time. So if you use it, perhaps there are strategies that can make good use of it, but I haven't found any.
And Red Panda Pie, if you check the alerts, you would have noticed I sniped Solana last night at, I think it was $68 or $67. So that for me was a buying opportunity. And now it's $70.50. So there are still opportunities, but you need to watch these dips and just grab them. If you want more of a certain position, you literally got to watch the chart 24 hours and you got to set your alerts in TradingView. So if you are in the bathroom or something, you go, bing, gotta go. Not to the bathroom, only kidding. Ivan, what about you? Did you buy the dip last night?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the dips are for buying when Tether is printing and the trend is up. So all dips right now, guys, you buy. Don't fade the Bitcoin, don't fade crypto. Just like in 2020 when we were right like at an all-time high, we were going from 15 to 16 to 17. Many people said, oh, it's overheated. It's overheated now. We will continue go sideways or down. No, at the end of the day, we are where we are in the cycle. Stars are aligning. All the on-chain that James said with the people buying, accumulating, addresses going up, ETF, and so on. Forth. That's the main thesis. That's the main. I mean, obviously, if Bitcoin has a massive flash crash, we wake up tomorrow, it's 20K, we will have a different situation. Now, trend is up. Everything is on the bullish side, and we're acting accordingly.
Yeah. Next question is kind of interesting. I'm going to kick this to either one of you, whoever wants it first. This is from RustyBot. Hello, RustyBot. So a stop loss makes sense if you're going to be in a trade for a short amount of time, but no stop loss on longer swings? What do you think about that? We covered the fact that stop losses on crypto are very dangerous because people hunt your stop losses. But on longer trades, do you recommend them still or not?
But the thing is, I mean, it depends on how you trade. Let's say that you use leverage, then you need to have some kind of stop loss because the alternative is that you get liquidated.
Yeah, right.
So you need to have stop loss. Like it's not. I don't think it's an option because the alternative is worse. If you are trading spot, then I mean you'd never get liquidated, but you may just be caught in a position you don't want. Let's say that you buy something and then it dumps 50%, and you're, oh man, now I have to hodl, and you're like slave to the position. And 1 year later, you're still holding, hoping it will come back. So I mean, stop loss makes sense if you trade. Then yes, you can get hunted. So that's why it's a bit of 3D chess. You gotta set it somewhere where it's not too obvious, and be ready that yes, you may get sniped. Absolutely, but the alternative is way worse. And then if you are more, intraday, intra-week, you trade with Bitcoin, which is way safer. It will not have the same volatility as alts. Then absolutely, it makes sense to trade without stop loss, just manually adjusting it day to day. And in some cases, you have no choice. Like for example, in Europe, where CTO and I are, if you want to trade like with zero tax in a zero tax account, you have to use like a stock market listed Bitcoin, and there it's not like you can sell during the night anyway. So there you cannot even have this like short-term strategy. You gotta have a long-term strategy because these certificates are only traded when the stock market is traded. So if you have something happening during the night, you cannot exit. So the only way is to be long-term. So I mean, all in all, depends on which type of trader you are, and if you're asking this question, you need to get your hands dirty, because some people, they love this, intraday, intra-week. Some people have success trading short-term. That's why trading is very individual. Like there's no like this is how to trade to make money for everyone. There are different styles: swing trading, day trading. So definitely try it out. But yeah, if you're using leverage, it's a must. You cannot have you're gonna get liquidated otherwise.
Yep, there's a great question here as well. Everybody's talking about stop losses today. This is from William Holden. How do you handle stop losses if all your assets are in cold storage? It's funny because Will Clemente this morning,
we had this.
said something. He said the price action has been awesome, but friendly reminder, there will be sharp corrections along the way as the market shakes off greedy leverage longs. And he said you can't go wrong with holding spot in cold storage, and that way you won't be shaken out. CTO, to you first on this one.
Yeah, very easy. Many big traders do this. To how do you handle stop losses if you have the coins in cold storage? Yeah. That means simply that you come to the conclusion that it's time to sell for some reason, whatever criteria you have. Price has been triggered, candle has closed, something like that. It's time to sell. Your kind of stop loss has triggered, but nothing has been sold yet. So then you go to your wallet. This isn't a wallet, it's a battery, but you go to your wallet, you log in, send the coins to the exchange, or if you're on Uniswap or something, or Thorchain, you connect it, you swap the coins or sell the coins on the exchange and withdraw the alternative, if that's USDT or something like that. That is how you do stop loss if you have your coins in cold storage, because as a lot of people, myself included, discovered 2022, it's very risky to have coins on exchanges. You think you're fine, but then one day you wake up and it turns out that your coins are actually gone because they had embezzled the money somehow. And when we actually needed all these regulators and everything, they were nowhere to be found. So we didn't know until it was too late, basically. So you don't have that problem if you have your Bitcoin or USDT in cold storage. So then you minimize the time that you have the money on exchanges. And I think that a lot of people have come to this conclusion, and that's one reason why there is less coins on exchanges also. We can see that in the statistics.
Yep. Awesome. Well, with that, any final thoughts from you, Ivan, before we wrap, everybody? Nearly 4,000 people watching live. Thank you so much.
That's crazy. That's a record. That's a record. Yeah, and good show, guys. Fantastic to be here yet again. Next week, we're on, let's see, CTO channel.
Right,
and,
right.
Sorry?
Right,
yeah,
yes, right.
Exactly.
And I want to end with, I want to, before we hang up, I want to end with one prediction. I'm still thinking of what we talked about earlier. I want to make the prediction that once the ETFs are out and they are listed on different marketplaces, we will have some of these bankers and they're going to come online and they're going to say, finally, there is a fully regulated and completely transparent and compliant alternative to crypto price action, to Bitcoin holding, instead of those self-hosted wallets. This is so great. Come and buy our Bitcoin ETF. Here it is. That's my prediction, and it's going to happen next year.
They're getting the marketing machine ready. Ivan, final thoughts from you, sir?
That's it, guys.
All right.
Buy the dip. We're hodling, and see you next week. And by the way, the winner of last week's predictions, I think it was CTO, because you had the lowest, right? Because mine was at like 48. James was a bit lower, and then I think you guessed the lowest. So congrats to you. And let's see next week. Next week's prediction, guys. What's next week? Let me. I'm putting in 45K for next week. James,
I say 44K on the nose.
Okay. CTO.
Okay. What did you say? What was your predictions? Now I have to concentrate, so I win.
I'm 45, James 44. But be ballsy. I mean, not.
Then I say 48 then.
48. Okay.
And guys, I have to say, this is not how I trade. Don't copy this. It's not a prediction. I don't predict as input for my trading process. We're just having fun. It's just a fun game.
The winner gets a free Bitcoin from CTO's battery wallet.
Battery wallet, exactly.
Thank you, everybody. Guys. Have a great week. See you all soon. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody in the audience, too. Don't forget to subscribe to these two guys' channels as well. See you all soon. Bye.
Bye.